The Boy from Harlem with a Secret Ambition. This story begins in Harlem, New York, a neighborhood legendary for jazz, soul, hip-hop, and hustle. Sean Combs wasn't born into music. He was born into survival. Insiders from Harlem say Sean grew up observing power, the kind you don't learn in business school. His father, Melvin Combs, wasn't just a name in the community. He was tied to men whose presence could silence entire rooms. When Sean was just 2, his father was murdered. No explanations, no justice, no closure. That kind of loss doesn't just hurt, it shapes. Those who lived nearby whispered that young Sean learned early. Power protects, power controls, and power decides who gets remembered. While other kids dreamed of toys and games, Sean watched the streets, absorbing the unspoken rules adults hoped he wouldn't notice. Rumors in the neighborhood said Sean always moved differently, like someone already planning several steps ahead. When he later said in interviews that he knew he was destined for greatness, some from Harlem would not because of arrogance, but because they remembered the kid who understood that the world wasn't fair and survival wasn't guaranteed. His rise didn't start in a studio, it started in the shadows of Harlem, where reputations were currency and secrets traveled faster than money. How college turned into recruitment. Sean Combs joined Howard University, not just to study business, but, as some friends say, to recruit it. Howard was a nucleus of ambitious minds and wealthy connections disguised as classrooms. Insiders say Sean didn't walk the campus like a student. He walked it like a CEO conducting early market research. Networking wasn't his strategy, it was his sport. While peers focused on grades, Sean focused on relationships, athletes, socialites, up-and-coming artists. He mapped talent, potential, and opportunity the way others studied textbooks. Rumor has it that his dorm room was less a personal space and more a meeting hub, buzzing with ideas, music, and late-night ambition. Those around him say Sean could sense star quality before the stars sensed it in themselves. He coordinated campus parties that became legendary not because they were fun, but because they drew the kind of attendees who remembered names. Connections became favors. Favors became leverage. Some say Howard didn't prepare Sean for the music industry. Howard introduced him to his first taste of influence. And influence once acquired isn't something you let go of. When he left college without graduating, insiders whispered that school hadn't rejected him. He had simply outgrown the classroom.
Uptown Records, the intern who outshined bosses. Sean became an intern at Uptown Records, but insiders say the word intern doesn't accurately describe his role. He didn't fetch coffee, he fetched talent. He didn't wait for instructions, he issued suggestions. Rumor had it that some executives felt threatened by how quickly the intern was becoming the conversation. He scouted artists before scouting was officially part of his job description. Whisper networks say he flaunted confidence that made allies admire him and critics uneasy. Inside those office walls, power had an unofficial hierarchy, and Sean moved like he didn't need permission to climb it. But rising fast means stepping on toes, even unintentionally. And stories circulated that his vision clashed with Uptown's comfort zone. He wanted faster, louder, bigger. Uptown wanted measured growth. Sean wanted cultural shockwaves. Some say his ambition wasn't the problem. It was that he expected others to match it. And when that didn't happen, tension filled offices, boardrooms, and hallways. Interns aren't supposed to create friction, but Sean wasn't acting like an intern. He was acting like someone on the brink of forming his own empire. Birth of Bad Boy, when ambition found its name. After his exit from Uptown, one surrounded by whispers of conflict, ego, and creative clashes, Sean founded Bad Boy Records. It was more than a label. Insiders describe it as a movement disguised as a company. The name wasn't just marketing, it was a declaration. Rumor has it that Bad Boy wasn't built to follow industry rules, but to rewrite them. Its office environment resembled a hybrid of fashion house, music studio, and exclusive VIP space. The line between business and nightlife blurred, intentionally. If Uptown was corporate, Bad Boy was cinematic. Sean signed talent with gravitational pull, artists who didn't just make music, but shaped identity. The whispers around the industry were that Bad Boy wasn't growing, it was dominating. And dominance attracts attention, both the kind you want and the kind that follows silently in the background. Bad Boy Records rose like a rocket, but rockets burn hottest not at takeoff, but right before they explode.
Enter the notorious B.I.G., the Kingpiece. The moment Sean met Christopher Wallace, known to the world as the notorious B.I.G., the industry shifted. Insiders say Sean recognized something raw, unfiltered, and dangerously magnetic. It wasn't just talent, it was presence. Biggie wasn't trying to capture a room, he was the room. Sean molded Biggie's sound, image, and narrative, transforming a street poet into a cultural phenomenon. Rumors circulated among industry execs. This isn't just an artist-label relationship, this is chess. Sean wasn't building a label, he was assembling a dynasty around a central kingpiece. Behind the scenes, some said Sean had a vision of media domination. Music, fashion, branding, merchandise, appearances. Biggie became the face of a movement Sean was orchestrating with precision. Stories whispered through the grapevine claimed Sean wasn't just managing a career, he was manufacturing a legacy. But the higher Biggie climbed, the heavier the attention. Fame seemed to come with flashing lights, not all of them belonging to cameras. Bad Boy versus Death Row, the rivalry that wrote legends. As Bad Boy rose in the East, Death Row rose in the West, and insiders say the industry loved the rivalry more than the music itself. Rumors circulated that media companies fanned flames because conflict sells better than collaboration. Sean and Suge Knight became symbolic representations of two vastly different empires. One hustled through polished branding and New York ambition, the other thrived off raw power and West Coast intimidation. People whispered that this wasn't competition, this was warfare wearing headphones. Behind velvet ropes in VIP rooms, the whispers grew darker. Entourages, tensions, confrontations. Parties that started with champagne sometimes ended with hand signals, stares, and exits made a little too quickly. Insiders claim that somewhere between the awards, interviews, and sold-out tours, the business of music merged with the politics of survival. And when rumors escalate faster than phone calls, control becomes an illusion.
The lifestyle, celebration, or distraction. Bad Boy wasn't just producing songs, it was producing lifestyle, unforgettable parties, overflowing luxury, and an image of invincibility. Those close to the inner circle whispered that celebration wasn't occasional, it was culture. Success wasn't subtle, it roared. Models, celebrities, athletes, if you were somebody, you were expected at a Bad Boy event. Rumors inside elite social circles suggested the parties had two layers, the public spectacle and the exclusive after. Stories circulated that those after hours were invitation only, phone screened, and guarded by silence. Some insiders saw it as networking. Others described it as insulation. The more extravagant the celebration, the easier it was to distract from tensions brewing just outside the spotlight. The question, whispered quietly, were the parties a reward or a shield? The first whispers of control. With power comes attention. With attention comes scrutiny. And scrutiny has ears everywhere. Industry insiders began to murmur that Sean held tight control over his empire, not just in music decisions, but in personal ones. Rumors circulated that loyalty wasn't just appreciated, it was required. Some former associates hinted that falling out with Sean didn't feel like drifting apart. It felt like being erased. Stories surfaced about artists leaving the label in silence, without statements, without closure. Of course, in the entertainment world, departures happen daily, but insiders said the pattern felt different. The Whisper Network used phrases like strategic distancing, reputational buffering, and contracts that favored silence. Whether truth or embellishment, the rumors had weight, not because of what was said, but because of who wasn't saying anything.
Press, image, and narrative. Media portrayals of Sean were polished, smiling, ambitious, fashion-forward. But insiders noticed something. Coverage felt curated. Stories died quickly. Narratives changed efficiently. Rumors suggested that press relationships weren't accidental. they were maintained. And maintenance comes with cost: time, resources, information. When success casts shadows. As Bad Boy became a cultural force, insiders said shadows grew beside the spotlight. Whispers of fallouts, silences, and sudden career turns intensified. People who were once frequent collaborators became distant footnotes. Rumors described patterns, not one departure, but several, each quiet, each unexplained. The question everyone avoided asking. At the height of Bad Boy's success, insiders whispered a question cautiously. How much of this is coincidence and how much is control? Rumors grew, but proof remained elusive. People talked, quietly. Careers continued, carefully. And the public saw none of it. Because in the world of fame and influence, sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones never told aloud.